Dr. Uche here. Welcome back to my channel. Remember to hit subscribe so you can follow and hit the notification bell so you'll know when I upload new videos. Feel free to like and subscribe and share with your friends. I come here to review fiction and also to discuss, occasionally read aloud children's books. And I also give publishing and writing tips, particularly focusing on writing biographies. So you can imagine my absolute excitement whenever I get a chance to read and review an autobiography. This one I did not know I was going to end up listening to. I listened to it, a lot more fun listening to. And it was actually a friend who texted me and says, Uche, you have to listen to this one. You have to read this one. So I ended up taking the bait and I listened to Will by Will Smith. Very, very entertaining, very, very inspiring. And I'm going to suggest that listening to the audiobook is a lot more fun than reading. So, when I come here, I highlight books. I don't necessarily tell you everything in it. I like to give you enough to tempt you to go and read or listen. And I love eventually to hear what you think about it. Hoping you leave a comment here or in the book club on Facebook or on Instagram. I'm really, really always eager to hear from you. So let's dig in. Will by Will Smith. So, interestingly, as we see in many autobiographies, he starts by describing the situation, the family he was born into, his parents, his father, his mother, their nicknames for each, grandmother, people who played a major role in his formative years. Growing up in Philadelphia, Philly, friends, people he interacted with, schools he went to, siblings. Talks about that in great detail. Some really inspiring people. His father, who raised a military style. This guy is not retired. I think he was given a discharge. He was discharged from the Air Force. He behaved in a very undesirable manner and was discharged from the Air Force, but really brought them up in this military style sort of home. He ended up having a business making and supplying ice to various companies or whatnot. And his mother, who, if I'm not mistaken, had a college degree. Now, I don't know if his mother is still alive, but had a college degree. And a grandmother, the mother's mother, who was very present, very influential, very loving presence in his life. And some discourse, the marriage, his parents' marriage was not a very joyful one. There was some violence and they ended up separating and he ended up with his grandmother, living with his grandmother, and I think his mother moved in there too first. He later joined them, if I'm not mistaken, and some other siblings. So the grandmother, a very God-loving, people-loving woman who really wanted to be the best she could be for her neighbor and really wanted to spread the joy and the love of Christ to everybody. A very, very inspiring woman, the way he described her. Now, he then talks about going through school and having to make the decision not to go to college, instead to pursue a career as a rapper. And the wisdom, my goodness, the wisdom that his father used, or the wisdom the father had in dealing with that decision, because that was not a decision his mother was fond of. Excuse me, my little guy is playing in the background and is making a racket, a lot of noise. The wisdom his father used to deal with the situation, this misunderstanding between him and his mother. Mother wanted him to go to college. He wanted to go try out for a rap career. Now, ended up his rap career actually took off, but lots of mistakes. He went from all the way up to all the way crashing down because of basically poor decisions and a bit of irresponsibility, quite frankly. We're talking somebody in their 20s. So, he gives pearls, he dishes out words of wisdom along the way. things he learned from relationships with a number of women in his life, and how his getting an audition for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which is how many of us got to know Will Smith, was actually quite, my goodness, I'd say a piece of luck. I'd say talent and opportunity. And I think somewhere he says talent and opportunity can come together to really create something awesome. So he had the talent and an opportunity came up and he had to grab it. He didn't feel prepared. He didn't feel he was ready. He didn't think it was the right time. But somebody, Quincy Jones, I believe, pushed him and said, this is it. Let's do this. He said, no paralysis by analysis. He kept saying that a lot in that part of the book. So the other things that Will Smith talked about, he talked about eventually moving to LA. He talked about learning from his first mistake, that when things are going well, you don't relax. You keep thinking of other opportunities. So even though the Fresh Prince was going great, he kept thinking, now what can I do next? What if this flops? What if I can't continue this? What else can I do? So that was a really important piece of advice, that even when things are going well, we have to look for other opportunities. We have to broaden our skill set. We have to work on multiple things so that if one doesn't work, another might work. I'm thinking of some other pearls. There were some relationships where he said what he probably shouldn't have. And that again shows us the power of words, how we really have to be careful in our use of words. And, for many of us, that comes with maturity. You learn that you can't just blurt out anything. In a moment of anger, it's sometimes better to take a walk and breathe so that when you say things, you don't say things you'll regret forever. So that was another lesson. I think another lesson had to do with much later in his relationship with his now wife, Jada Pinkett, learning that you cannot make somebody else happy. The person has to decide and determine that they want to be happy by themselves. So it's not any of us, it's not our responsibility to make someone happy. Happiness and joy come from within. So that was another important lesson. I'm trying to think. There was a place where his father was teaching him that he was having a misunderstanding with the mother of his eldest son, Trey, parenting misunderstanding, because they weren't together at the time. And the mother, Trey's mom, was raising him in a certain way, had certain values and so on that he didn't approve of, doing things in that manner. And he went to his father hoping to get some counsel. And the father said, son, you cannot fight with a child's mother. The child will hate you forever. I thought that was really heavy. But I'd say that was a piece of advice as well, because he was nodding. He agreed with his dad because the same had happened to him, right? His father and mother did not have a good relationship. And in a way that always impacted how he looked at his father. Now, the father's story ended in a sad way. I think he had heart failure. I believe he died from heart failure. Trying to think of some other experiences. There was a time where he traveled the country with his family. He was young at the time, and that was his first opportunity to really broaden his mind and see various parts of the country. And I think that part speaks to giving children a chance to see more than they're used to, which is something that speaks to all of us parents as much as possible, to help our children have varied experiences, open and broaden their mind. And I like how it ends. It ends with his 50-year birthday jump. So for his 50th birthday, he decides to jump out of a helicopter over the Grand Canyon. Of course, bungee jumping, tied up, harness, safety, and all that. I'll never do that anyway. But but that was how he ended, trying to do something He never thought he would break out of his comfort zone. The same applied to when he learned how to swim and dive. He'd never done that before, but as part of going through therapy for his marriage and several other problems along the way, which, by the way, it's okay for people to go to therapy if they need it. He was a therapist encouraged him to learn how to swim and learn how to become friends with the ocean, and he did. So that was another thing about breaking out of your comfort zone. And there was a time he traveled to, was it Haiti? I believe, with a friend. And he stayed there on his own, no security detail, just himself. And that was another breaking out of comfort zone that I thought was very nice to see. But these are the highlights I thought I wanted to point out about Will by Will Smith, the autobiography of the actor Will Smith, somebody who obviously has been very successful in his career. I didn't really know too much about his rap career. I grew up seeing him more as the actor because I think he started acting in the 90s, and that's really when I sort of came to age as a teenager. So I didn't know too much of his rapping career. But interesting to see his ups and downs, to see the experiences, the people who formed him, some of his experiences growing up, some of his mistakes, things he learned from, and little ways in which he tried to make best of mistakes, trying to use them as lessons moving forward, and also finding ways to break out of his comfort zone. This is Will by Will Smith. I hope you might consider reading it, and I can't wait for you to come back and tell me what you thought of the book. As always, follow my channel for more often. Here I'll be telling you writing and publishing tips, especially for autobiographies, although you will also find me reviewing fiction and having children's book read aloud. So again, Dr. Uche, your Dr. Booktuber, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.